Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Brian's Logic, Father of a Stolen Child, Flatsoid, Mind Warped, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So, welcome, one and all.
Hey everybody. Howdy doody.
Howdy doody. Okay. Howdy doody to you too.
Good evening.
Good evening, welcome, good morning, wherever you may be. Any evidence of a physical, geometric, sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
I'm sure it hasn't been physical for at least a year now.
Yeah, exactly. It hasn't been since 1st Jan 2020. Over a year. No physical horizon. Game over,
It has to
globe.
be physical at any time.
Indeed. It's an apparent location where the sky seems to meet the ground. It doesn't actually meet the ground, it's an apparent location. Arwen joining after the intro, because I intentionally started early just to stop that happening. Hey, Arwen.
Yeah, well,
Well, I'm not going to get caught out by Arwen joining in my intro, putting me off again. I'll get him to join on time, which is when I'm doing my intro normally, so I'll start a minute early. That won't happen.
Nathan,
Hello,
are you
Arwen.
bending time?
Bending time by starting early a minute, yeah.
Yeah, and I kept on going a little longer. I was caught up in responding to a troll in my chat, and it was kind of funny.
Fair enough. We're only one housekeeping question down, so any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Would you not need physicality to have that actual rotation?
You'd need to be on a rotating platform.
Which is physical.
Physically rotating. That's what they claim, yeah. They claim Earth spinning, that's right.
So we don't have rotation, we don't have physicality, so we don't have a globe.
Hey, by the way, guys, isn't that kind of funny, the idea that if the Earth were rotating across the equator, basically, which is what the ball supposedly says it is, then if you would unfold it like the map, then technically, yeah, the entire disk Earth presupposedly would also be rotating like a roundabout. Except there would be more centripetal effects at the south and less at the north. But yeah, there isn't any, though.
Sorry, but Arwen, we're
Hold
not
on,
a disk
Flatsoid.
floating in space.
One sec, Flatsoid. So what you're
In
saying, Arwen,
space?
is...
I didn't even mention space.
Hold on, just let me get clarity of what you're saying. It's a fleeting comment, I'm sure, but there we go. Just so the audience understands what you're saying. You're saying that when you take the projection of a sphere Earth and flatten it out, as in something like the azimuthal equidistant projection, what you'd end up with is a rim velocity on the outside edge of that pancake that was considerably larger than the current rim velocity at the equator, because it's opened out further, giving you a greater distance from centre and therefore a greater rim velocity. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And I'm not making any statement with that is a reality. I'm just playing in my mind with it.
The reason I sort of highlight it or go over it again, reiterate it, that's the word, is because on the Vsauce video from many years ago, it's probably about 6 years old now, maybe 5 years old now, he describes exactly that, how gravity would work on a flat plane and how you'd have a force that was increasing as you went to the outside edge of it. You're like, how, now that you've mentioned it, how is it that this isn't applicable to a globe, but it is applicable to a pancake? Why is it suddenly the forces of non-forces that you can think of as forces when pseudo-Ramonian force space get bent? Why are they suddenly an issue when you flatten out that pancake, but nobody feels a damn thing when it's on a sphere Earth What, because it's halved? Or not, it'd probably be far less than half. But you know what I'm saying? When it's less at the equator, so what? You'd still feel it, right? 1,000 miles an hour in velocity.
Yeah, well, Nathan, the difference
Good point.
is the globe believers have a belief in their globe. Nobody believes in a pancake. A spinning pancake.
So they're just being protective with against the same arguments for their globe, but they will be happy applied to the supposed flat Earth disk model.
Well, they're
Right.
happy to criticise the same effect on a flat Earth disk model, but it's just no issue when it comes to a sphere Earth model when they've got a not actual force.
This is-
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
don't think-
just zealotry. It's just
I
zealotry.
don't think their arguments stack up flat rate.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No evidence for a distance to the sun.
I'm going to bring up a point that Bo brought up in a chat over the weekend. So he's been making observations of Jupiter and Saturn, which are in close or have been in close proximity. Shout out to Desmond for joining as a penguin. And based on what he was explaining to me in the chat, something clicked that I'm sure will now click for all of you as well. The movement of the stars based on their distances in astronomical terms, when presupposing a sphere Earth and presupposing Venus as the same assumed R value as Earth, and applying Kepler's third law to give you the distances. When you have those astronomical distances, based on the mechanics of Earth turning, we would, throughout the night, see parallax. Now, the only movement occurs the following day. So if you take into consideration something like a wandering star, right? What happens? Well, when you draw out the dots and join them together after a few nights, you can see that its position relative to the other stars would move backwards, but only in reference to the previous night, and its position relative to the stars the previous night. But throughout the night, there's no parallax. Now, I won't go into massive amounts of detail because he sent me a whole bunch of information via an email, which I picked up on this morning, but haven't actually had a chance to go through yet. But when he said it to me, I thought, you're right. There isn't any movement throughout the night, and you can all picture a time lapse, right? Where's the parallax? Based on the distances, there should be some. So BLMSB69's channel has got, as far as I'm aware, because I think he sent me the link to it, although I've not yet seen it, one of these time lapses with Saturn and I think it was Jupiter in close proximity throughout a time lapse without parallax. Now, I did ask him, I'm like, why not just a planet versus any star? And he was like, well, because they're in a similar trajectory and the distances between them are quite big and etc. He did give me an explanation, but I didn't fully understand why the parallax wouldn't be more extreme with something more distant. But nevertheless, I'll take him at his word, and he said it was a better example to use these two wandering stars or planets to detail this lack of parallax. That said, we've all seen stars move through the time-lapse motions, right? So I'm sure at this point you're all going, you're right, where's the parallax? Throughout a period of night time, not the following day, where's the parallax? Well, the answer is there isn't any.
Well, if you actually think about it and you know stars move independently of one another, you wouldn't expect to see it because they move in their own cycles how they move. But to the globe, you need a parallax, and it's not there, so you're right.
There isn't any.
It's only showing. Sorry.
Go on.
Yeah, I just agree with you there. It's only you only see it the next night. Like if you record the positions, you only see it the next night and the night after that and the night after that. You don't see anything on that night while you're watching it.
No, they're just
You
all
can't
moving.
see anything that you should see.
They're all synchronous, right?
Yeah, it's all it does exactly. It's just like moves like a clock. On
Not
that night.
possible if they're at different distances. Simply not possible.
No, not possible. Not possible.
Correct. Essentially debunking any claim of these astronomical distances and their variation based on the fact that there isn't any parallax. No parallax? Game over.
So are you saying the ratios are wrong?
Not the ratios. So what? You can only see the ratios with parallax. Oh, well, that one's at this vast distance and this one's closer. Therefore, as we turn, one looks like it's moving faster than the other. Like if you're on a train and you've got the platform going by with mountains behind it. They both move at different distances, at different speeds, apparent to your trajectory or your vector. So the platform will whiz on by as the mountains don't seem to move at all in the far distance. Things in the foreground somewhere in between. Well, the same would be applicable to the stars throughout the night, as we're claimed to rotate underneath them. Well, that means we're the one with the train vector moving past stuff, some far, some near. Ergo, there must be parallax. There
It
isn't.
should be a new housekeeping question.
Go on.
Any visible signs of parallax in the night sky?
It may very well get added. When he said this to me, I thought this is worthy of housekeeping. You know, this is awesome. Obviously, I'm going to check out his emails. I've not even read it yet. But when he detailed it quite concisely and accurately and to the best of his ability in the chat on one of the Uncut and After shows. So, you know, big shout out to him. Is it BLMSB or is it BMLSB? I always get it the wrong way around.
I think it's BLM.
Yeah, BLM, yeah. BLMSB.
Big shout out to BLMSB69. That's Bo's channel. Check it out. He is also the originator of the black swan image used to make the Modus Tollens example. So massive shout out to Bo. And thank you very much for passing on this information. Epic. It's one of those that you go, how didn't I think of that? Absolutely awesome. Excuse me.
Well, I think in heliocentrism, they have a positive calculation for parallax between like the movements, the slight discrepancies within the star movements, but they only calculate positive parallax. They ignore negative, where it returns to its previous position.
Oh, I see. So what they're saying is if there's a minor deviation in something that potentially could have caused that to happen with a bit of, I don't know, hot air between you and it, well, that would cause parallax in the one direction. But if it returns, that's ignored.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of accounted for, but then it's ignored as well.
Flat side, you're off mute.
Yeah, you're causing a bit of a
Yeah,
racket.
sorry, I realized that.
It's okay. So yeah, it's nice to have a relatively recent, well-versed ex-Globehead on the panel, John. Already hearing the rebuttals, right? So this has clearly been put forth before and just been shot down.
But yeah, they say that they account for parallax and they measure parallax, but when it's found that there was a negative parallax, they just dismiss the observation.
This argument is around a few years, but it's kind of one of those things that it's not until now, probably right now today, is actually really seeing the light of day, because I've heard Globebusters and others speak about it, and I do remember, I think it was Mark Sargent or someone speaking about it when I first heard it years ago. Maybe it could have been Jaron Campanella. But it's around a good couple of years, but like all those other things, just like the argument about the horizon with the black swan, we were so involved in so many other arguments trying to deal with other ones that we deemed more what's the word, had more priority. We never got around to this, but now we are at a point where we can now look at this without having to worry about those other arguments. If you know what I mean.
Nathan has, well, the much younger Nathan Oakley has a show on Parallax. I watched it. One of the earlier shows, Nathan, where you were on a train, not like a train going through well, maybe it was a train going through the country, but it was a train either in the city or the country, and you were talking all about parallax, and you were pointing out your window to objects. Do you remember that?
Yes, but by the same token, it's not. I may have made this argument myself. That's not the point. My point is, it takes someone like Bo to say, here's two planets without parallax. The argument is as follows, and then just lay it out. And keep it concise. What I'm saying is that, like the black swan, plenty of people, having looked at this after the fact, right, I went back and found a few other videos that had black swans in them, and they had the most thumbs down I've ever seen. Disproportionately high thumbs down on black swans before it was the black swan. And you go, oh, yeah, that's interesting, eh? When someone comes and shows the horizon beyond a physical geometric capability of being somewhere and they make a little argument about it, won't necessarily be modus tollens, but they point it out that it's not possible. That gets the most negative feedback from the globe side. Yeah, that's why, right? And I'm sure if we went back after the fact, once this has been polished up and presented a bit better, we'll go back and say, oh, look, here's a few people pointing out parallax, the lack thereof, and it's got a very negative reception. I don't doubt it.
Yeah, absolutely. With the whole black swan thing, the J. Tolan Media's famous observation from Point Dume in Malibu to Mount San Jacinto, he should have had an horizon 15.25 miles away from him. But he didn't. He had Santa Monica Beach just over 19 miles away, and Los Angeles, and everything else all the way to Mount San Jacinto. And they did everything they could. And if you look at their supposed debunks of that, because I did a presentation on it and I pulled their debunks apart, they did everything they could. They lied everything just to get rid of that. And the main problem was the horizon. And I have to admit, when I was the question I asked them, when I was just debating guys in comments on YouTube videos, I asked every one of them, I says, where is the horizon? If things are gone over a curve, where is the horizon? This should be there. And every one of them, no matter who they were in the ball or fraternity at the time, they all disappeared. None of them would answer it. They just disappeared. They wouldn't argue any further.
Exactly. And the same thing happened during the Isle of Man. And it was, where's the bulge? Now, the bulge in their Earth curve maths is the horizon. But we hadn't identified it, and we were asking them, including Rumpus, well, where's the bulge? Where's the hill between us and the target? And there was just lots of stunned silences and no answers to it. And at the time, I had no idea why. You know, like, why is this being met with stunned silence when I ask where the bulge is? Well, it's because that's their physical reified Earth curve edge horizon that's not visible. It's not capable of being measured. It's not capable of being seen. It's a not actual location they've reified into a sphere edge by way of claiming you can draw a tangent point to it. Now, that's nice and easy to summarise in 2021. 2016, you're like, where's the bulge? No reply. Well, why aren't they replying?
Exactly.
What's going on?
Well, I have a physical bulge.
No, stop. The South Africans.
We're not going to have flatsoid. We're not going to have flatsoid. We're not going to have the battle of the bulges. Okay, come on.
Far more clean of a joke. Excellent work, 10th man.
because Italians would win.
Has anybody got
you
anything
can
to add on?
patent- hang on, you can
Let's
patent
back
that
up
one.
with that.
Everyone calm down. Hold on. Has anybody got anything to add on distance to the sun or parallax?
Well, I think just about parallax, I think that we should definitely focus more on that, because they're always claiming stuff to do with the sky, which is all wrong anyway, because I'm going to say this now, and I don't know if it'll be taken in, but it will become important in time. Their globe, their north and their south, are out of alignment with Polaris and Sigma Octantis by 3/4 of a degree at each end. So, just to clarify why I said that is that they're always talking about the sky as if their globe perfectly fits it, and it doesn't fit it at all. So I think we should attack parallax, because they're always trying to attack us with this nonsense for 6 years.
Yeah, just think what chaos there would be if there was no parallax, which, well, there isn't parallax if they needed it. I mean, the stars wouldn't be where they are every time they say they would be.
Well, isn't parallax based on a presuppositional vantage point in the first place? Namely, that they are physical things in Euclidean space.
Yeah, it's based on Kepler's third law, giving them all the distances and variants of the maths, based on Earth being a sphere with a radius of 3959 and Venus having the same radius as Earth. And then they just apply Kepler's third law. That gives them all of the distances.
Radius.
Yeah, radius, yeah, we debunk that. I mean, ultimately speaking, this falls under the category of it's automatically debunked by the black swan. So it is kind of surplus to requirements. If anybody was to assert the distance to any of the stars, where are you getting your R value? You're assuming radius is the same in Venus as it is in Earth, and you've assumed the radius of Earth, and we've debunked your assumption based on, what, a measurement of the horizon being physical by Alberuni to derive R, to move R, with R, when you can't measure it anymore? Yeah, that's a screwed argument, so you're not going to be applying Kepler's third law. You're certainly not going to be assuming Venus has the same radius as Earth. You're certainly not going to be assuming Earth's got a radius. And you're certainly not going to be assuming Earth's a sphere based on having a physical geometric sphere for a horizon. You haven't. So that's all game over. That's kind of convoluted. Whereas if you just say there's no parallax, that's kind of the end of that, right? In terms of distances to these celestial bodies. There's no parallax.
Yeah, I say put it into housekeeping.
I think one of the rebuttals to this is if the Earth is flat, then how are these things that we thought we knew like how are they possible? We thought we know them.
Are you reverting to a baller that's got the cognitive problem of not being able to relinquish one paradigm unless he's got another to replace it?
Yes.
My bad.
That's yeah. I was saying that was my favorite response to what we're saying.
Well, I like to respond that as follows. Oh, so you've got questions now. Now your argument's been defeated. You got questions like, what is the sky made of? Yeah, join the club. Yeah, so many questions when you realise that this massive lie about what the sky is suddenly leaves you with no answers. Suddenly you wonder what the sky is, but you ask me what the sky is. Suddenly I'm your authority, am I? Well, join the club. We've all got questions now. But why are you asking me them? I've just pointed out that your paradigm's wrong. It doesn't mean I have to give you an answer about what the sky is. I know we have containment because we wouldn't have gas pressure. And what's the reply to that? What's your proof? Where's your proof of the sky vacuum not being real? Well, second law of thermodynamics. Well, where's your container? Where's your proof? Well, we've got gas pressure. There's your proof. Without it, we wouldn't have any gas pressure. We need containment. So we've got to have containment. What it is, I have no idea. Why you'd ask me is irrelevant because we've proved where your belief in a sky vacuum... Might as well ask this housekeeping question. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure, that's the stuff we're all breathing, yummy, yummy, yum, gas pressure, without a container for it to press upon.
Only on Globetardia.
Where they suffer from colobiolis.
And are all infected with the Coriolis virus.
Remember the good old days when the ballers would come in and just say, just walk outside.
Yeah, just walk outside and beg the question with me. Beg the question that the sky is a vacuum, and my special pleading fallacy about it being a vacuum is absolutely true because I can point at it and assert that the sky is a vacuum and the gas isn't filling it. Therefore, beg the question with me, and you too will have a fundamentalist religious belief that there's a sky vacuum in violation of the second law of thermodynamics.
I just love how they point to us. Look, no containment, but show us demonstration with containment.
What's that you say? You need to see a demonstration of gas pressure without a container? Well, how's this? I'll show you 2 containers to demonstrate gas pressure without a container. And evidence
now they throw bouncy balls down and say that's gas.
Right, it's like a magician's trick, but they're literally, with the trick, tricking themselves. They're just erasing the idea of the container within the apparatus and just like imagining how it is there without a container. And that's their proof.
Exactly. They're lying to themselves. You know, the ones that assert so doggedly that they're here because Flat Earth's dead. It's like, why are you here then? Go in peace, man. If you believe your own nonsense, then why would you be here? Well, it's because you're still trying to convince yourself. Unfortunately, you've inadvertently stumbled on and then swallowed a red pill. Now you're trying to convince yourself otherwise, telling us how it's dead. Oh yeah, well that's fascinating. Go in peace, get on with your life. What's that? You can't. You're here daily.
It could be your show's so popular they can't contain themselves.
Boom, boom. Like
they're hitting themselves against the container walls.
Any evidence they are value?
Black swan.
That's the most painful one, isn't it? Not having R.
Well, not for any of us, but because you relinquished your globe faith based on the lack of R value evidence and the black swan, then for you, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the rough one.
My surname would sound weird without an R, though.
And R value, the radius of the Earth, 3959 miles to the centre point from the outside edge.
You mean geometry? They need actual physical geometry to have this R value.
Yeah, you know, based on measuring a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon, deriving an R value from a dip angle from a 90-degree zenith on an assumed ball, like Alberuni did.
Alberuni measured what?
He measured a physical geometric sphere edge horizon with a straight line tangent to an assumed tangent point on a sphere. Something they say we can't see and only exists in the maths, and is the basis of their maths because that is where they get the R value from.
No, he didn't, and I tell you why. Because due to the refraction calculations based on that R value that he didn't see, we can't see it because of the refraction. Yeah.
That's an interesting and clever way of describing the paradox that's not been done before. Kudos, Brian.
Thanks.
I got filleted alive for that one. What are you talking about?
Yes, say it again.
I got filleted alive for that
I
one.
bet him a pound he can't say it again. I bet a pound he can't do it.
I wasn't
For me?
talking pretend.
Yeah. Let's see if you can surmise the same exact way of describing Aronian paradox. Go ahead. Let's see if you can do it. Same exact description. Go. Let's see if you can do it.
No, he didn't, because he couldn't see the. Oh.
Yeah, you see?
Yeah.
Summarizing the paradox, right? You can do it in the moment. But when you come to actually repeat it, because it's paradoxical, you're trying to describe doing something that can't be done. And it's a really, it was beautiful, Brian. You'll have to listen to it back on the replay because I can't repeat it either. But it was epic. You're just describing the paradox, not being able to measure something, because what you're saying is it's not there where it would be measured. And the reason it's not there is because the measurement of it moves it. It makes no sense.
No, he didn't.
There's quantum interference.
He's having a bash. Let it go. Go ahead, Brian. I still owe you a pound.
No, he didn't, because I had it there, Owen. Oh no.
It's Owen's fault. Let's move on. Leave Brian in a bit of torturous pain while he tries and wrap his head around the paradox he's just described. Excellent. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of said presupposed spherical Earth?
Well, I have veggies growing in my garden, so.
And what does that have to do with the price of rice?
It's just a little joke, don't worry.
Veggies at the bottom of your garden.
Magnetic core. How else will they grow?
I'm lost. Right, veggies at the bottom of the garden, self-perpetuating molten iron core, centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. You're going to have to link these two things together for me.
He's trying to say that the only way that root vegetables grow is when they reach the molten iron core. That's where they get their magnetic energy to become root vegetables.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That is what you're saying.
Yeah, how do you think I get my delicious poikikos?
That's why they're full of iron. Come on.
Well, I mean, you can always affirm the consequent with such things. If there is a presupposed spherical Earth with a molten iron core, then my vegetables will grow beautifully because of the magnetic field. My vegetables do grow beautifully because of the magnetic field. Therefore, there is a molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Just affirm the consequent.
It's obvious, Nathan. Carrots, the pointy end of the carrots point down to the magnetic field. The fat part's above the ground. It's just there. Come on.
Yeah, but you missed the point. I had to grow them to point to magnetic west.
There you go. There you go. So, if Earth, a sphere with a presupposed molten iron core at the centre of it, then my carrots will grow better when pointing to magnetic. What did you say? West.
West. Thanks, RC.
Okay. And my carrots do grow better when pointing to magnetic west. Okay. Therefore, Earth with presupposed spherical and molten iron core at its centre.
Well, the carrots, I can see your argument better.
Beautiful. It's an affirming the consequent. The point is that the Q, if P then Q, right? Well, the P is normally your presupposition, if Earth a sphere. The Q statement can be anything that's true, then grass will be green. Then you just affirm the consequent. Grass will be green, therefore Earth a sphere. You know, you can throw in anything you like. It's more useful if you actually have something that's observable. It gets more complex when they throw in something like, if Earth a sphere, then when I travel to the south, not mentioning that that's presupposing the spherical surface that they're trying to prove, then I'll observe star rotation. Now, in your mind, you might not catch the fact that that actually assumes the outcome they're trying to prove. Then they affirm the consequent. I do observe star rotation in the south, not mentioning that I assume that's antipodal. Therefore, Earth a sphere and you're antipodal.
What about if we're living on a hollow Earth and the supposed molten iron core is a sun? This is I'm on your side, but I'm just saying hypothetically, the molten iron core could be an inner sun, maybe.
What core?
Yeah, what core?
I'm just saying hypothetically. This core that the globies keep talking about.
Anything
That's
is
what I'm
possible, and
Just that it's molten iron already debunks itself.
well,
Yeah,
like,
well, how do they know it's iron?
they don't. Well, I'm being serious. They don't.
No, I know that. That's why I'm laughing. It's like, yeah, it is completely presupposed. Like they don't literally know what it's made out of. It's completely hypothetical.
Indeed. Any more on the molten iron core?
Like, what's the deepest we've gone down, Nath? It's like 12 kilometers in Russia.
7.6 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they can figure that out by drilling down that far. It's ridiculous.
Agreed. Shout out to Al Junkie for the super chat. Flatsoid is fan of Mick Magnetic West. Is that so? I didn't know Al Junkie.
Yeah, I'd like taking a Mickey out of him.
Mick West and the Magnetic Carrots. Love it.
I only got a
That's
couple
Indian
more.
band.
Where's
Sounds
Neil?
like a band.
Band name, right?
No, you're not going to get a response out of him. Right, let's move on. A couple of more housekeeping questions to go. So, any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, because if we did have, they would give it to us by now.
Now they're still trying to figure out what it is, even though their entire cosmology incorporates it, whatever it is supposed to be.
Isn't it strange how the whole scientific community has a consensus saying it is scientifically validated, but when you ask for the hypothesis, they can't bring up anything for you.
Perfect segue.
It is scientifically assumed, and they're still working on that validation.
Well, I was going to say scientifically assumed would be the independent variable in a hypothesis, right? So Flatsoid's point is exactly the same. When you ask them for a hypothesis, suddenly there's a lot of mumbling and shuffling of feet.
Yeah,
Well,
I think when it comes to
Cavendish experiments.
It's the proven cornerstone to our world and everything in it, but there's no proof in it.
Well, if we live on a sphere, it has to be true.
Yeah.
What
Check
about if
out.
we don't live on a sphere?
At least John Shows has been listening. Hold on, Brian. So
either
yes,
way,
that's,
down is down.
hold on 1 second. At least Father of a Stolen Child's demonstrating that he's been listening. So yeah, you can just affirm the consequent, John. Do you want to just repeat what you just said?
But if we live on a sphere, it has to be true.
So if P then Q, right? So we're talking about, what were we talking about? Gravity. If we live on a sphere, then we must have gravity. And we do have gravity, therefore Earth's a sphere. It's just if P then Q, Q therefore P again, right? Most of the time, you'll only get half of it, which is precisely what John did. He just infers that the latter then follows the former. Doesn't actually have to say it.
But
Yeah,
do
but
we
you
have
need a-
gravity though?
But you need a measured
there's
arc.
there's something there that when we drop something, it goes down. But the thing is, all it is things going back into equilibrium. Like, say, for instance, we've spoken about this heaps of times. Like, if you're on a globe or you're on a flat Earth, like down is down. So if you're going to pick something up, it's going to fall. Remember Blue Ball's experiment? You know, like it completely debunked this. It's just what it is that you take something, you move it out of its original place, it's going to fall back down. It's really just a matter of densities. Things going back to where they want to go to, where you've taken them from. Basically.
Or up. Or
In
up.
relation to the medium's density.
Yeah.
It
or up.
works
Yeah,
every
exactly.
It works every time, except when you tell your kids to clean up their room. Nothing ever goes back.
Yeah. Mine aren't old enough for that yet, but I can imagine, I can completely understand.
There's another problem with that logic too. Because if you live on a sphere, you need a measurable R value. So the first statement is false. We don't live on a sphere.
Yeah, but in their
sorry, Nathan, go ahead.
well, when they affirm the consequent, the fact that both of those things are assumed is irrelevant, right? The fact that they're using their fundamentalist religious zealot belief that they're on a sphere to affirm the consequent of a not actual force that you can think of as a force when describing mathematics of bending conceptual mediums, that would be pseudo-Aronian force space. The fact that one is a fundy belief and the other is also a fundy belief, that doesn't stop them in the slightest, John. They'll still make that argument all day long.
Right, yeah, but the if part of the if it's a sphere, then it has to be true. Like the it's not a sphere though. Like so it doesn't have to be true.
And I'll just be the same as they would be and assert with dogged zealotry that I automatically assume it is though. Therefore it must be though. So therefore I automatically assume it's a sphere, and it is, it must be. Therefore, we must have gravity to explain how the sphere works that I'm automatically assuming. So I can just reassert this all day, like they would.
You're better at it than me.
What it is a massive.
What sphere?
What it is they're using an incorrect modus ponens as a massive begging the question fallacy. Because what they're saying is modus ponens is if A then B, A therefore B. That's the basics of modus ponens. But what they're saying is, if the globe is a sphere, if the Earth is a globe, A, then B, we will have gravity. They're saying we do have gravity, B, so the Earth is a globe, A. We don't have any of them. You know what I mean? This is what they do. This is their whole shtick.
Yeah, so you're saying that if you assert, if I grow grass and care for it, it will be green. Now, to assert, I grew my grass and cared for it, therefore it was green. That's if A then B, A therefore B. That's perfectly sound logic. But when you say, if I grow my grass it will be green, or if I grow my grass and care for it, it will be green, and then you say, my grass is green, therefore I grew it and cared for it. Well, I live in an apartment and I've got a gardener. I don't touch the grass. But because it's green, I looked after it and cared for it? No, the former doesn't necessarily follow the latter. But well, that's what you do when you affirm the consequent. Now, in this slightly more convoluted example, we've got John taking two things that don't actually exist. Now, I've said it helps if your Q statement, or your B statement in this example, is actually true. It does help if you've actually got green grass to make the example. Now, if you haven't, it's less convincing. But I'm saying it doesn't stop the fundamentalist religious zealots from asserting if the Earth's a sphere, well, there's your begging the question fallacy, then we'll have gravity. Well, there's another begging the question fallacy. they can still assert and affirm in the consequent with two things that are completely not true and undemonstratable or provable in any way, shape or form to affirm their own fundamentalist religious belief of one or the other.
It's a great religion.
Yeah, because you could have just laid out some fake grass too.
Get off my turf.
Well, they don't even need the grass. That's what I'm saying. In this example, right, you've got something that's not physically capable of being viewed or measured. That's the sphere Earth. We're standing on a flat plane. It's as simple as that. So those two things are incapable of derivation by measurement. Even though it's claimed to be, we've debunked them all, so let's not go over how. Well, that bit is therefore false, if P. Well, if P, because it's false, well, that's a lost leader, immediately you've lost, you're not going anywhere. But therefore Q will have gravity holding it all together with a not actual force of bending space-time. It's like, well, that's nonsense also. That's just a reification fallacy of some mathematics derived from Einstein's nonsense. So what, you're going to insert a force, an emergent force, from this not actual force in pseudo-Aronian force space? And then you just affirm the consequent. Well, we've got an emergent force that's not actually a force that we can think of as a force. We call it gravity. And therefore we must have a sphere Earth beneath our feet. You're like, neither of these are... Who are you trying to convince here? Well, the answer's pretty simple. Themselves.
Yep.
Very true.
A quick shout out to James Richard. If I drop a variable within a medium, and the variable falls through the medium, then I take the same variable in a different medium, and the variable goes up, it's not the medium... Is not the medium the cause?
It's kind of grows in you, doesn't it?
Thank you very much for the super chat, James Richard. It's got a question mark at the end, but I don't know how to answer.
I was saying your grass analogy is one of your best when you're trying to share whether affirming the consequences. So you ought to clip it out.
I didn't tie it to anything, though, so it's just an example of affirming the consequent.
That's what I'm saying. It was good.
Well, it's not tied to anything. Let's do it. So if I've cared for my grass and grown it, it will be green. My grass is green, therefore I've looked after it and cared for it, even though I've got a gardener, affirming the consequent. If the Earth is a sphere, then I will observe star rotation in the south hemisphere. I observe star rotation in the south hemisphere, therefore the Earth's a sphere. So the former doesn't follow the latter, or the latter doesn't follow the former, I should say, because the former starts with an assumption that you're going to be making a journey antipodal on a sphere. So you've already begged the question in your P statement. Now you're affirming it by saying that when I travel south, well, let's not assume that we're travelling south and going to end up antipodal, like your assumption dictates. South is towards the horizon. So we arrive south, the sky's still above me, the ground's still below me, I'm not hanging off the bottom of a sphere. I haven't assumed I am, so I'm not. Because no assumption was required, nothing indicated that I was going to be hanging off the bottom of a sphere when I travelled south towards the horizon. Now when I got there, I noticed there was star rotation, that bit was true. But it doesn't imply that the former statement of if the Earth's a sphere suddenly applies, because I've travelled south, in no way had anything indicate that I'm travelling over the edge of a sphere, and when measured, it demonstrably shows that it's not. So there's nothing to infer in any way, shape or form that the assumption of antipodal travel when moving south applies. I just I've had an affirming the consequent put to me, in the same way as it's easy to assert that I've cared for my grass nicely simply because it's green, when the gardener's done it. There you go. I'm not going to trim it out.
you did much better than I thought. I was doing a pun with your grass clippings.
You just cut it to a T.
Very
Boom,
good,
boom.
Nathan.
I love our 10th man's pun went over my head, but Flat's always got a boom boom. What was your pun? I missed it completely, 10th. And then we'll move on to the last housekeeping question.
I said you were talking about grass. It was fantastic. So obviously, grass clippings. You ought to clip it out.
Oh, damn. Well, the audience got an extra example that destroyed the idea that we're travelling antipodal. So I thank you anyway, even though it was completely over my head. But boom, boom! Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics.
Would you need to actually have an hypothesis and do an experiment physically to figure out what the variables are?
No, we're not asking for that. No. Not even asking for an experiment. Just a valid hypothesis. Not validated. They don't have to give us an experiment.
So they would have to at least have some kind of observation and then make an hypothesis of the observation.
Exactly. They've got plenty of natural phenomenon. All of them go on and on with their just so stories about their natural phenomena that they're observing and then give you a little story about what causes it. Now, that's not sufficient. We're saying if you've got a natural phenomena, you can easily suppose the cause of it. Well, if you've got a supposed cause and you've got an effect, you've got an independent variable, that would be your presupposed or supposed cause, and you've got an effect. Well, that's all we're asking for. You can then formulate that with a null if you choose to. If A, that's your presumed cause, then not B, not the effect. That's your null. That's all the hypothesis is. An assumption of a cause, your supposition of the cause, that's your independent variable, and the effect you observed, the thing you're studying, the thing you're trying to figure out what caused it. And then you say, if my independent variable, supposed cause, I won't see the effect. That's the null. There you go. That's it. Hypothesis construction 101. That's what we're asking
But you got a problem there. Because then you're saying it's scientific.
So we just need an independent variable that we can manipulate, huh?
It is scientific.
That should be easy.
It is. Hold on, Chocolate. Hold on. Just one sec. It is scientific. That would be a scientific prediction. Now, the prediction hasn't been validated, but it's absolutely a required step in the method. It's the scientific prediction. That's what a hypothesis is.
So astrophysics is scientific now?
If they can give us a valid hypothesis, now, obviously, we'll have a look at it and scrutinise whether or not they can actually vary the cause they've asserted.
Dr. Becky did it. She did her hypothesis and then looked at computer images and listened to iTunes. That's how she did it.
That's not.
Yeah, computer data is so scientific.
Yeah, that's neither a dependent variable naturally occurring phenomenon or a presumed cause of any phenomenon that's being studied. So, no.
I believe they call it computer science.
That's an oxymoron.
Very nice.
No, it's an oxymoron.
Yeah, I know. I just like the way he said it.
It's funny because it's a course they offer in like school, computer sciences.
Yeah, science would be dealing with the physical and natural world, or physics. Computers, you can't get any more man-made. No naturally occurring phenomena in computing.
Yeah,
That's
that's
like
an
atmosphere.
oxymoron. How dare you bring
It's a
it up?
contradiction.
Say again?
Just like atmosphere, glaring contradiction.
Yeah, another oxymoron. Atmo,
Yeah.
air. Sphere, that's a shape. Well, air takes the shape of its container. Air's not sphere-shaped. It's an oxymoron also, correct? That's one of the ones that's going to take a long time to untrain saying the word atmo, air, sphere, presupposed fundy belief. Those two words are ingrained in most of us, right? Or one word, I should say.
But you would need actual containment to have a shape, would you not? Because it would take the shape of a container.
If the air was sphere-shaped, it would be because it's in a sphere-shaped container, that's correct. It could only be asserted as atmosphere if the container was a sphere.
Funny enough, they say that Earth is an open system, so they don't have containment. How's that work?
Yeah, exactly. They just say that the air is sphere-shaped.
I thought they had a valve.
Bivalve.
I don't think so.
Yeah, they were saying they had a little valve up there. One of the ballers said that.
No,
Maybe one of the
Flatro, you
ballers.
were on the debate with Craig Fight the Flat Earth, and he was saying something can get out, but something can't come in, remember?
yeah, it's a closed
Like a
system
pressure
that
release
lets matter
valve.
in and out.
Hold on, say again, Mr. Palmer.
Like a pressure release valve.
Yeah, but a valve is something that opens
No,
and
a
closes
pressure
on a
release
container,
valve.
or between two containers, or between a container
Yep.
and the open air. That's what a valve is. So that would imply that there's
Yep.
something around a sphere Earth, and there's a little tap or valve or whatever you want to... This is nonsense. Why are we even contemplating this? It's the implication that we
Because
do
of
have...
fluidia.
It's because of Slice Volcano, who says it's a closed system that's open, remember? And Fight the Flat Earth, that says it's a closed system that
So it's
lets
got a
matter
valve.
in or out.
Right, these are contradictions in terms. Like married bachelor. Can't be a little bit pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not pregnant.
Try telling them that.
It's either open or closed. Can't be open closed. Like it can't be a liquid gas.
This is when I hate when the ballers come, oh, but thermodynamics only works with isolated systems. And they're like, oh, really?
No, only is
why-
described in the law. Now the law describes something that occurs always, and the description uses ideal circumstances to describe it. But it's describing something that occurs always. So the law isn't the thing being described. It's the description of something that occurs always. Hence it gets the title Law of Nature. So the nature bit is the thing that's occurring always. The description bit is the law that describes it. So because the law says isolated systems, yeah, that doesn't matter. It's describing something that occurs in nature. The idealized circumstances that describe it aren't the effect.
Don't you think we would have big problems with mechanical engineers studying thermodynamics and saying, sorry, we can't use it for open and closed systems?
Yeah, exactly. Hold on. We're going to apply the second law here. I don't know, let's not apply that in this model because, this isn't an idealized circumstance that we're going to be building. It's not going to be perfect. It'll still have some heat transfer through the container, so it's not isolated. So, yeah, I think we should just give up.
Well, I think one of the tricks is to, in your mind, you got to imagine it's an open system and an open container are exactly the same thing,
Okay.
but they're not necessarily.
Okay, so I'm imagining an open container, right? And what I've got, let's say it's massive. Let's say it's the size of the Earth. That's how big this container is, and it's open. And I'll open up a valve in a chamber that's got gas in it. And all the gas just goes everywhere and disappears really rapidly. So I've imagined it, and the gas just filled the space in line with natural law.
Well, see, it's a bunch of like mental games you got to play with yourself to actually get there. And it still doesn't make sense in the end because you're never going to get your presupposition of gravity to overcome entropy.
Indeed. It's not sufficient. There's not actual force. Shocker. You'd think not actual forces would be really powerful with their not actual nature of not doing anything actually, physically. Yeah, you'd think that would overcome a natural law, wouldn't you? Oh no, that's just the delusion that you have to tell yourself if you're a globe-believing fundy zealot that's got a globe belief.
But what I'm saying is, even within that conception, when you're in the globe, you still have to imagine layers and imaginary containers going up and pressing down on the imaginary container below it.
All right.
So
and when you do that, John, because you've been there, what you say pressing down on the one below. What about the one at the top? Because gas expands in all directions. It's not just down there, right? So what are they pressing on at the top?
We don't try to talk about the top. We stay away from that.
But that's what I'm saying. They're violating anything. I mean, they're trying to say gas is only down at one vector. If someone can prove that to me,
Oh, I can.
Be amazing.
I can cite Thunderfoot Clown. What you do is you take some solids, forget that they're not gas, and pour them into a fish tank and watch them go down, go boom, boom. When you pour those solids through a gas, that'd be the air. And now the air is just moving in all directions and still managing to go into the container and into the person that's pouring the bores out's lungs to make sure that they can still breathe. So it's not staying just in the container, the gas that we refer to as expanding in all directions. But bouncy balls, if I pour them into a fish tank, then I can assert that gas does that. It goes down, go boom, boom, like bouncy balls, even though it expands in all directions. It's nonsense, but I can assert it because a PhD clown called Thunderfoot asserted it, with demonstrations, with him pouring bouncy balls into a fish tank.
Wow.
Not convinced? Surely that convinces you that gas go down, go boom, boom.
No, but you're
and
saying...
then Rumpus will come in here and describe how gas acts like bouncy balls, but then tell us how bouncy balls acts like gas.
Yeah, he did that, didn't
Wow.
he? Yeah, he said if you imagine that the bouncy balls have got elastic collisions, then they'll expand in all directions and won't slow down and eventually pool at the bottom of the tank. So in other words, if bouncy balls behaved like gas, they'd fill the space. Now gas behaves like gas with elastic collisions and fills space. So if space was a space and gas behaved like gas, not like bouncy balls behaving like gas, but actually like gas, that's expanding in all directions, elastic collisions, not going down, go boom, boom, then it would fill the space, because space is a space, right? According to them. But then we'd all be dead, because the gas would have filled it.
But this is where they say it's not gas, they say it's atmosphere. But then you ask, what is atmosphere made of?
There's a bigger issue. There's a bigger issue. Gas is only gas because it has become less dense than liquid. And liquid is normally less dense than most solids. So gas is only gas because it is the least dense matter we know of.
What about...
So how can it be going down, going boom, boom?
What about liquid gas?
If you can find me some of that.
You gotta ask Rumpus about that. He's the only one that knows about liquid gas.
Yeah, but Nathan, liquid gas is just compressed gas.
I see. Fascinating stuff. Meanwhile, gas expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume that it has to fill.
Not to mention thundercloud.
Metals can actually
use the
be
fucking
turned
fish
into
tank.
gas.
Like, why didn't he pour it on top of a beach ball?
Why didn't he pour the bouncy balls onto a beach ball when he was saying that bouncy balls, which will go down, go boom, boom, because they're not moving in all directions and bouncing off each other with elastic collisions? Why didn't he pour the non-analogous bouncy balls onto a basketball? Is that what you're asking?
More analogous beach ball instead of a fucking fish tank. Like, that's retarded.
But it still
Beach
wouldn't...
ball doesn't have a molten...
Because it'd fall off, and then his magic trick will be over for the Globetrotters.
Yeah, it looks very silly.
The beach ball doesn't have a presupposed molten iron core, that's why.
Well, you can think of it as having a presupposed molten iron core. Just have to think on the not really is level 10th.
Yeah, just go grow a garden.
Yeah, but then I'd be a baller, and I don't want to be a baller.
No, that's true. Nobody wants to be a baller here. I mean, literally, in this scenario now.
Shout out to George Mooser for adding the really is level into our vernacular. Shout out to George Mooser for that. Thanks.
I think the biggest insult anyone can call us is a baller.
Ironic, given the general social status of being a flat earther, wouldn't you say?
I'd like to point out Chocolate's timing as impeccable as usual. So if a flat earther said, we don't really need to, what was it again, Chocolate?
We don't have to work at the really is level.
Yeah, so if we don't have to work at the really is level, if a flat earther said that, it wouldn't be as powerful as George Muser saying it.
Exactly, that was the beauty of him saying it.
What was the rest of
Glover
it?
would make fun of you if you said that.
Hold on, John. What was the rest of
Exactly.
it? Something about we can, we must, something or other.
We can, we do, we must consider Newtonian gravity as a force. Doesn't mean it really is one, but we don't necessarily have to work at the really is level. End quote.
Perfect.
You know, it reminds of taking an empty bowl and mixing not actual ingredients and then dishing it up as a salad.
You can think of it as a salad, the empty plate. You don't have to work at the really is level when you come to dine with me.
If Rumpus, I just heard you comment. I couldn't come in a second ago when you talking about what reply Rumpus would give if he was asked, how come if we drop these bouncy balls onto a beach ball that they would just fall off it? What he'll do is he'll say it's not analogous because it doesn't have the mass that Earth mass that the globe Earth has, so it doesn't have the gravitational effect. Blah blah blah. So what he will do, and all the rest of them, just for clarity for the audience, is they will then turn that very pertinent question really into a monstrous begging the question fallacy.
Yeah, they'll
Yeah,
point
but
at...
that's 106 years old.
Well, no, I see where you're going, Brian. What they'll say is if it was a big enough beach ball, and when you get to, well, how big? Well, about the size of Earth, then my special pleading fallacy kicks in. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Fortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you for smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out NathanOakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.